In this video, we will be taking a look at how our Scan2Go functionality works on our Volanté Enterprise terminals. Scan2Go is a mode used on our service stations, such as the EM300 tablet solutions or terminals located at food service areas. When a customer comes up to select items, the chef or host will choose the item and then print a barcode to go with the item. The customer can then go to multiple service station locations, picking different food items and receiving barcodes. Once all items have been selected, the customer can then go to a self-checkout kiosk where they can scan in all receipts with barcodes and resume the transaction for payment and completion. So let's take a look at how this solution works on our terminal. Scan2Go is a mode that may be shown on the original login screen, or it might be available from your home screen. I'm going to go ahead and log in. However, you would be swiping your card at this time. As we can see from my home screen, I do have both cashier and Scan2Go modes enabled on this terminal. Your service station terminal likely will only have Scan2Go available. So when I go into Scan2Go mode, we see a very simplified user interface. I have my menu located to the left-hand side, and to the right, I have 3 buttons available: Find Item, Remove Item, and Exit. Once I start adding in items that the customer has selected into this transaction for Scan2Go, we see that the Remove Item button has now become active. As well, the button at the bottom for Exit now is Save Order. I'm going to go ahead and choose to save my order, and a receipt has now printed out of my barcode printer. My barcode printer may be a label printer or a standard receipt printer, and this receipt would be given with the food item to the customer. I'm now going to resume these transactions at one of my kiosk terminals. Let's take a look at how multiple transactions can be resumed. So as a customer, I would now take my food items and any receipts that I have for my Scan2Go process to scan in on my kiosk terminal. We see my kiosk on screen, and I will choose the Tap to Start button. I may or may not have additional food item options or barcode scanning abilities at this time. Let's go ahead and start scanning in our barcoded receipts and see what we get on screen. As we can see, I've scanned in 2 receipts into my transaction, and all food items are now available for purchase. These transactions have now been merged together into a new transaction. I do have the ability to remove items or change quantities. However, it is recommended that the customer would go back to the service stations to change the transaction. Once I've scanned in all of my receipts, I can then proceed to my checkout, or I can continue scanning barcoded items or choosing other items from the menu if available. As we can see, I've scanned in a can of Coke. I'll proceed to my checkout, and I do have a variety of available payment method options. This will vary site to site depending on the payments your location is accepting. I'll proceed to On Account. I'll scan my customer card or my employee card at this point in order to use my payroll deduct. As Tom is a member of 2 different account types, I'm going to pick the most applicable one, in this case, payroll deduct. And now we can see that Tom has been welcomed, and I can choose to go by On Account payment type and have it process against my payroll deduct. I can email the receipt or print a copy of the receipt at this kiosk terminal. I'll choose Done. So what happens if the customer has lost the receipt? We can actually do a reprint of the customer receipt, and I'm going to go in using my cashier login at this point on a POS terminal, and normally you would swipe your card. From the left-hand side panel, I'll be choosing the Open Transactions functionality. This will show me all open transactions. I do have a couple of Scan2Go transactions open from a previous session. Let's say the customer has lost the transaction for one of the more recent receipts. I can select the transaction and I can see a tuna melt and a ham and Swiss sandwich. If at the point I was to choose more and print the receipt that is printed out does not include a barcode. This will not allow the customer to scan the receipt at the POS or the kiosk terminal to resume the items. Instead, I'm going to choose the Open function from the top left-hand side on my transaction. Once the transaction has loaded, I can choose the Save Order button, which will then reprint a new copy of the receipt with the same transaction ID number. I'll choose Exit at this time, and I can either log out or return back to my home screen.